The city lights of New York glittered like 1,000 scattered stars. High-rise buildings reflected the neon glow of passing taxis. Inside the grand ballroom of the Kane Enterprises Gala, men in tailored suits and women in sparkling gowns mingled, champagne flutes clinking, laughter echoing through the cavernous room. But Alexander Kane didn't notice any of it. Not the chandeliers, not the gossiping socialites, not the cameras flashing for the social pages. His attention was locked on her. Across the room, Isabella Moretti, 27, graceful, dressed in a deep sapphire gown, laughed lightly at something someone whispered in her ear. Her brown eyes sparkled with mischief, the kind that made people lean in just to hear her voice. But Alexander didn't hear her laughter. He didn't see the small crowd around her. All he saw was the daughter of his oldest rival, the woman whose family had tormented his business empire for decades. His pulse quickened. His jaw tightened. He had told himself he wouldn't be distracted tonight. He had told himself that business was business, and personal feelings had no place at a gala. Yet here she was, smiling, moving through the crowd like a force of nature, unaware, untouchable. A waiter brushed past him, spilling a tray of champagne. Alexander hardly noticed. His eyes never left Isabella, and then he saw her glance his way. Just for a split second, that tiny flicker of acknowledgement, and something shifted. He shouldn't have felt it. Desire, curiosity, a mix of both. He hated himself for it. She's dangerous, he muttered under his breath. Not in a physical sense, but the danger of chaos, distraction, emotions, all of it. Across the room, Isabella's gaze lingered on him longer than it should. She didn't know why exactly. Maybe it was his presence. Maybe it was the way he carried himself. Sharp suit, sharper eyes, a confidence that could make walls crumble. Maybe it was the electricity in the room, the unspoken tension that made her stomach flutter. Alexander pushed through the crowd intentionally, or so he thought. He had business to attend to, negotiations to close. But fate had other plans. The first collision was subtle. A clumsy bump. A spilled drink. His hand brushed hers while reaching to steady the tray. Her eyes widened. His pulse skipped. "Sorry," he said, voice controlled but low. "Too low. It's okay," she replied, cheeks tinged with a faint blush. That was it, that brief exchange. But it sparked something neither could explain. Alexander remembered her name. Isabella Moretti, her father. Marco Moretti, the thorn in his side for 20 years. He should have walked away. He should have left her alone. But he didn't. Instead, he lingered. He watched her talk to others, laugh, move. He noticed the little things, the curve of her smile, the way her eyes narrowed when she was concentrating on someone, the way her hand subtly adjusted her hair. He hated himself for noticing. And then she walked toward the balcony. Outside, the city skyline stretched endlessly. The cold wind of early fall brushed past her gown. Alexander followed. He had no reason to. No business out here, no plan. Just an inexplicable pull. "You shouldn't be out here alone," he said from behind her. She turned, startled but composed. "And you shouldn't be following me." Her voice was steady, but her pulse betrayed her. She hadn't expected to see him. She hadn't expected to feel whatever this was. He smiled faintly. "I wasn't following. A lie." Not that it mattered. She raised an eyebrow. "Were you?" "I could ask the same of you." A silence fell. Not awkward, electric, the kind that made the air itself tense. "Alexander Kane," she said finally, testing him, daring him. "I didn't expect you at a gala, much less sneaking out to a balcony." "I didn't expect to see Isabella Moretti either," he replied, eyes locked on hers. "And yet, here we are." A gust of wind tugged at her gown. She clutched it lightly, and for a heartbeat their hands brushed again. The touch lingered longer than it should. Alexander knew it. She knew it. He looked out over the city. "You know why I'm here," he said quietly. "I'm not fond of your father's business tactics. Never have been. Never will be." Her eyes narrowed. "That obvious, huh?" "Obvious to anyone paying attention," he replied. She laughed softly. Not mockingly, but it carried a tension, a challenge. "A dare. You're not like everyone else," she said. "Most people here are fakes." pretending to care, pretending to be what they're not. He smirked, faint, almost involuntary. I'm very real. Real enough to hurt someone without realizing it? Her voice softened, a question layered with accusation and curiosity. He stiffened. Her words were clever, dangerous. Like she had read him, dissected him, exposed a part of himself he'd long hidden. I do what I must, he said carefully. But sometimes, yes, I make mistakes. A flicker of something passed through her eyes. Understanding? Curiosity? Perhaps a mix, and then a knock at the balcony door. Alexander's assistant called his name. Duty, business, reality snapping back. He glanced at her. A silent promise hung between them. He didn't know what it meant yet. Neither did she. But fate wasn't done. Later that night, as the gala ended, Alexander watched Isabella disappear into her car. The driver opened the door for her. She didn't see him watching. He didn't want her to. And yet he couldn't stop thinking about her. Her laugh, her gaze, the way she made him feel. Human, vulnerable, alive. He hated himself for it. Meanwhile, Isabella drove home, thinking about the mysterious billionaire. The one she was supposed to hate, but something about him lingered in her mind. Something she couldn't define. The night ended with a city skyline glittering in silence. Two people connected by history, by rivalry, and now by something neither expected, and neither knew it yet. But this was only the beginning. Because in the game of love, revenge, and secrets, the first collision is only ever the start of a storm. The morning after the gala, New York woke up to its usual symphony, honking cars, distant sirens, the hum of coffee shops opening along the streets. Yet for Alexander Kane, the city felt quieter, emptier. Not because the streets had changed, but because his mind was consumed by a single thought, Isabella Moretti. He tried to focus on Kane Enterprises, contracts, mergers, acquisitions. Every financial report screamed for his attention. But every number, every graph blurred into insignificance. Her laugh, her glance, the spark in her eyes, they haunted him. He hated that they did. Meanwhile, Isabella, unaware that Alexander's world was unraveling because of her, tried to focus on her own life. The Moretti Corporation had meetings to prepare for, clients to impress, deals to negotiate. But she couldn't shake the memory of him. The way he looked at her, serious yet curious, challenging yet vulnerable, and fate, as it often does in stories like theirs, wasn't content to let them stew in memory alone. By noon, both were summoned to a charity event, a rare collaboration between Kane Enterprises and Moretti Corporation. The venue was an expansive rooftop garden overlooking Manhattan, filled with sunlight, laughter, and the subtle tension of unspoken rivalry. Alexander arrived first, adjusting his crisp suit, scanning the crowd. He didn't expect to see her there so soon. Yet, as he turned toward the main hall, she stepped into view. Sapphire dress replaced by a soft cream blouse and tailored skirt, hair tied neatly, eyes alert. She smiled, but it wasn't warm. It was careful, calculated. Alexander Kane, she said lightly, voice carrying just enough edge to remind him of their last encounter. Isabella Moretti, he replied with a faint bow of his head. You look formidable as always. Flattery now? She teased. I thought you despised my family. I do, he admitted, eyes locking with hers. But I don't despise you. Her gaze lingered. Was it curiosity? Suspicion? Or something else entirely? They were interrupted by the arrival of the media. Flashing cameras, journalists' questions, the clatter of attention demanding a spectacle. Both maintained smiles, masks of professionalism, but underneath something simmered. Throughout the event, they were forced into proximity. Conversations about philanthropy, shared projects, and corporate strategies became a battlefield of wit and tension. Every glance held meaning, every accidental touch sparked electricity. During a pause in the event, Alexander noticed Isabella slipping away to the rooftop terrace. Without thinking, he followed. The city stretched below them, sunlight glinting off steel and glass. A gentle breeze carried the faint scent of blooming flowers. Alexander leaned casually against the railing, pretending nonchalance. You're everywhere, Isabella said, voice teasing but edged with caution. I could say the same, he replied. His eyes didn't leave hers. For a moment, the world narrowed to the two of them. No gala, no rivalry, no contracts. Just two people standing on a rooftop, their history and tension simmering. "Why do you care so much about your family's feud?" she asked suddenly, soft but pointed. He stiffened. "Because it's my legacy. My responsibility. But it doesn't mean I hate you." Her lips curved slightly. "Good to know. But why do I feel like there's more to you than just business?" He paused. Hesitation, vulnerability. "Because there is. There's a part of me I hide. From the world. From everyone. Maybe even from myself." Her expression softened. She could see it. The cracks behind the armor. The fleeting moments of truth hidden beneath calculated control. Before they could continue, a sudden commotion erupted below. A charity auctioneer's gavel fell, a table collapsed, drinks spilled. Panic flickered in the crowd. Alexander instinctively stepped forward to help manage the situation. Isabella followed, concern flashing across her face. Not for him, not yet, but for the guests. The chaos forced them to act together. Side by side, navigating a flurry of startled donors, tripping waiters, and spilled champagne. Hands brushed repeatedly, eyes met in moments of silent communication. Every gesture intensified the unspoken bond growing between them, and then, as the chaos subsided, they found themselves momentarily alone. Faces flushed, breaths uneven. "You're different than I imagined," Isabella said softly. "Different in a good way?" he asked, voice husky. "Maybe," she admitted. "Or maybe dangerous," Alexander smirked faintly. "Dangerous can be fun." Before the conversation could deepen, her assistant appeared, reminding her of a meeting. Duty pulled her away. He watched her leave, the weight of unspoken words hanging in the air. That night, Alexander couldn't sleep. Every thought of her replayed in his mind, the way she laughed, the way she challenged him, the fleeting softness beneath her composed exterior. He realized he didn't just want to win against her father. He wanted to know her. Meanwhile, Isabella sat at her desk, reviewing contracts. Her mind was elsewhere. The encounter on the terrace, the shared moments of chaos, it all lingered. She hated herself for being drawn to someone who should be her enemy. But she couldn't deny it. Over the next few days, fate intervened again. A business dinner, a charity gala, a corporate meeting. Each time they collided. Each time the tension escalated. Every glance carried meaning. Every conversation crackled with a mixture of rivalry, attraction, and curiosity. Alexander discovered something he hadn't expected. Isabella was not like her father. She had principles, a sense of justice, a compassion that defied her family's ruthless reputation. She challenged him intellectually, emotionally, morally. She was not an obstacle. She was a mirror, reflecting parts of himself he had long ignored. Isabella, on the other hand, realized that Alexander wasn't merely the cold, calculating businessman she had imagined. Behind the arrogance, the wealth, and the power, he had depth, vulnerability, a side that few ever saw. And it terrified her as much as it intrigued her, but fate wasn't done teasing them. Secrets from their families, long-held grudges, and corporate rivalries lurked around every corner. A mysterious email, a whispered warning, a hidden photograph. Every small discovery drove a wedge between them, even as the attraction grew. By the end of Section 2, both were aware of one undeniable truth. Their connection was real, electric, and dangerous. They were drawn together, yet torn apart by circumstance, legacy, and the shadow of their families. And just when Alexander thought he could finally express his feelings, a shocking revelation landed in his inbox. A secret about Isabella's family that could change everything. The city lights of New York shimmered against the glass towers as Alexander Kane stared at his laptop, the cursor blinking at the top of the email. He hesitated, thumb hovering over the mouse. The subject line was innocuous enough. Important family disclosure. But the words inside promised to unravel everything he thought he knew about Isabella Moretti, and possibly about himself. He clicked. A photograph. A document. Names he recognized. Connections that should have been impossible. The revelation struck him like a bolt of lightning. Isabella's family wasn't just powerful. They were hiding something. Dangerous, clandestine, and potentially catastrophic. He leaned back in his chair, chest tight. The skyscraper around him hummed with life below. But up here, in the silence of his private office, the world felt suddenly smaller. Isabella, her laugh, her warmth, her intelligence, everything he had started to feel for her now mingled with a surge of distrust and fear. The next morning, he arrived at the Moretti Corporation office under the guise of business. Every step toward the elevator, every glance at her across the lobby was weighted. She was radiant in a soft blue dress, hair pulled back elegantly, and she smiled warmly, unaware of the storm brewing in Alexander's mind. "Good morning, Alexander," she said. "Sleep well?" "Better than expected," he replied, voice steady, but with an undercurrent of unease. Their conversation was light at first. Corporate strategies, mergers, charity initiatives, but Alexander's mind kept drifting back to the email. Should he confront her? Should he investigate further before saying anything? The tension was unbearable. As they walked through the bustling office floor together, he noticed small things. Her laughter, her gestures, the way she genuinely cared for her employees. She was everything he had imagined and more. And yet, the secret lingered like a shadow. Suddenly, Isabella's phone buzzed. A stern look crossed her face. "Excuse me," she said, stepping into a conference room. Alexander waited outside, hands in his pockets, heart racing. When she emerged, her expression had changed. More serious, more guarded. "What happened?" he asked, concerned. "Just family matters," she replied cryptically. Her eyes flickered, hinting at tension. Alexander wanted to press further, but something inside him told him to wait. To observe. Secrets, after all, had a way of revealing themselves. Over the next few days, their interactions became a delicate dance. Every meeting, every lunch, every accidental brush of hands carried both attraction and risk. The chemistry was undeniable, but the stakes were higher than ever. Then came the turning point. A charity gala at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Alexander arrived early, dressed impeccably, his mind set on maintaining composure. Isabella entered shortly after, radiant in a flowing emerald gown. Cameras flashed, guests murmured, and the evening began as a celebration. But for Alexander, it was a battlefield. As they navigated through the crowd, Alexander noticed a man observing Isabella from across the room. A stranger, but there was something familiar in his posture. A shadow of recognition. He approached cautiously. "Isabella, can we talk?" She turned, smiling politely. "Of course." He guided her to a quieter corner. "There's someone watching you," he said softly. She frowned. "I can handle myself. I know, but this feels different." His eyes scanned the room again. "Trust me." Before she could respond, the man moved closer, revealing a face Alexander hadn't expected. Someone tied to a part of Isabella's past she had never mentioned. Secrets, lies, connections, betrayal. Isabella's eyes widened. Recognition, fear, and anger flashed across her face. "Alexander, But before she could finish, the man stepped forward, addressing her by name. "Isabella, it's been a long time. I need to talk to you." Alexander's jaw tightened. He felt a surge of protectiveness, of jealousy, of confusion. Who was this man? And why had Isabella never mentioned him? The night spiraled into chaos. Guests noticed the tension. Whispered questions filled the air. Alexander stood close, guiding Isabella away, shielding her from prying eyes. But the revelation had already planted a seed. Someone in her past was still in the present, and it threatened everything they were building. Later, in the quiet of a rooftop terrace, Isabella confided in him. She revealed fragments of her past, family disputes, unresolved conflicts, hidden threats. Alexander listened, heart aching with a mixture of empathy and determination. He realized that loving her meant accepting her entire history, her secrets, and her vulnerabilities. But just as they leaned closer, a sudden message on Isabella's phone made her eyes widen again. Another secret, another complication. Alexander felt his chest tighten. Fate was testing them, throwing challenges that could either break or strengthen their bond. The emotional turmoil was intense. Trust was fragile. Every conversation carried unspoken weight. Every touch was charged with both desire and caution. And yet, through it all, their connection deepened. Moments of tenderness, brief, fleeting, became anchors amidst the storm. By the end of Section 3, the stakes were clear. Their love was real, but the world around them was treacherous. Secrets, betrayal, and family legacies loomed large. Alexander and Isabella were drawn to each other irresistibly, but the path forward was fraught with danger, emotion, and heartbreak. And just when they thought they could find a moment of peace, a shocking betrayal emerged, a message, a photograph, or a confession that would test their trust and loyalty to the limit. The morning sun barely filtered through the skyscraper windows, but the tension in Alexander Kane's penthouse was palpable. Coffee sat untouched on the sleek marble counter as he stared at his reflection in the darkened glass. His jaw was tight, hands clenched. He hadn't slept. He couldn't. The events of the gala, the stranger, the hidden truths. Isabella's sudden fear had left a knot in his chest. A knock at the door broke the silence. "Alexander." "It's me," Isabella's voice called softly. He opened the door to find her standing there, elegant despite the chaos of the previous night. Her emerald dress replaced with a simple cream blouse and tailored trousers, hair pulled into a loose bun. But her eyes, they held uncertainty, sorrow, and the weight of secrets she still hadn't revealed. I need to tell you everything," she began, stepping inside. Alexander led her to the living room, tension radiating between them. "Everything." "No more secrets," he said firmly, voice low. She nodded, taking a deep breath. "The man at the gala, he's my cousin, or rather he claims to be, my family. They've been involved in things I couldn't even imagine. Alliances, rivalries, and betrayals that stretch beyond what I knew." Alexander's brow furrowed. "Alliances? Betrayals? Isabella, I need details now," she hesitated. The weight of her words seemed to press down on her. "My father, he's made enemies over the years. People who would stop at nothing to control our wealth, our company, and even me. That man, he's one of them. And I think he's been following me for months, waiting for the right moment." Alexander's mind raced. The woman he loved, the woman who had captured his heart, was being shadowed by danger he hadn't anticipated. Protectiveness surged through him. He reached out, taking her hand. "Then we face this together. No more running, no more hiding." She looked at him, eyes brimming with gratitude and fear. "I want to trust you, but my family, our enemies, it's complicated." He pulled her into an embrace, the kind that communicated strength, safety, and an unspoken promise. "Then let me carry that burden with you." The days that followed were a delicate balance of corporate duties, clandestine investigations, and stolen moments of intimacy. Alexander dug into the shadows of Isabella's family history, uncovering connections, hidden accounts, and cryptic messages. Every discovery revealed another layer of complexity, betrayals, rivalries, and dangerous secrets that could destroy them both if revealed publicly. Meanwhile, Isabella navigated her own turmoil. She had never allowed anyone into her world so completely. Her life had always been about appearances, about protecting the family name, about strategy and caution. Alexander's presence disrupted all of that. His vulnerability, his passion, and his insistence on honesty were foreign, but intoxicating. One evening, as the city lights of New York glittered like a sea of stars, Isabella found herself alone in the Moretti Corporation lobby. Alexander had gone to meet a contact who might hold key information about her family's enemies. She wandered near the windows, reflecting. A shadow moved behind her. The stranger from the gala. Before she could react, he spoke, voice low and insidious. "Isabella, we need to talk. Alone." Fear coursed through her veins, but she refused to show it. "I don't know what you want, but leave me alone." He stepped closer, smirk playing on his lips. "Your father's empire, your family's secrets. You think you understand them? You don't. And Alexander Kane, he doesn't either." "But I do," her heart pounded. She realized then that the stakes weren't just about corporate power, they were personal. And in that moment, she understood that the man she loved was walking straight into danger on her behalf. Alexander returned unexpectedly, his presence immediately altering the dynamic. "Step away from her," he said, voice firm and unyielding. The man laughed, a chilling, confident sound. "Kane, always the hero. But do you even know what you're fighting for? A confrontation erupted, words sharp, accusations flying. Alexander and Isabella's eyes met, unspoken communication passing between them. Trust, loyalty, love. Even in the midst of fear, they were united, but the stranger left. His message delivered, and the tension remained. Isabella realized that danger was not just external. It had seeped into her family, and now into her heart. That night, on the rooftop terrace overlooking the city, Alexander and Isabella faced each other under the soft glow of the skyline. Silence stretched between them, punctuated by the distant hum of traffic. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Alexander asked, voice tight. "I wanted to protect you," she whispered. "I thought I could handle it alone." "I was wrong," he cupped her face, eyes intense. "We are stronger together, and nothing will break us if we face it side by side." Their kiss was fierce, desperate, and tender all at once, a fusion of passion, trust, and defiance. In that moment, they understood that love was not just an emotion. It was armor, and it was courage. But just as they began to savor the fleeting peace, another message arrived on Alexander's phone, a cryptic warning, unsigned, hinting that someone within Isabella's inner circle was betraying them. The revelation shattered the moment. Suspicion now loomed like a storm cloud over their relationship. Could they truly trust anyone? Was their love enough to withstand the treachery around them? The dawn broke over New York, painting the skyline in hues of gold and rose. But inside the Kane penthouse, the city's brilliance couldn't match the storm of emotions raging within Alexander. He sat at his desk, reviewing files, messages, and leads, but his mind wasn't on the numbers. It was on Isabella, the woman who had become his anchor, his heart, and, unexpectedly, his fiercest vulnerability. A knock interrupted his thoughts. "Alexander, it's me!" Isabella's voice floated through the doorway. She entered, her expression a mixture of determination and worry. Her emerald eyes, so full of life, reflected both fear and hope. "We have to act now," she said, urgency in every word. "I traced the source of the betrayal. Someone close. Someone I never suspected. They've been leaking information to our enemies for months." Alexander rose, his posture rigid, a blend of anger and focus. "Who?" Her lips trembled slightly. "It's my cousin, the one who claimed to be family. He's been manipulating everything, me, my father, even you, indirectly." Alexander's jaw tightened. The betrayal cut deep, but his resolve hardened. "Then we end this, together." The next hours were a whirlwind. They coordinated with private security, traced digital footprints, and uncovered hidden accounts. The danger had escalated, but so had their trust in each other. Every glance, every touch, every shared plan reinforced the bond between them. Night fell over the city, neon lights shimmering against glass towers. The confrontation was inevitable. They arrived at a secluded warehouse, dark, cavernous, and humming with the presence of danger. Alexander's hand found Isabella's. The touch was grounding, a silent promise that they faced this as one. The man who had betrayed them, Isabella's cousin, stood waiting, smug confidence radiating from him. "I knew you'd come," he sneered. "Did you really think love would protect you?" Alexander stepped forward, voice calm but lethal. "Love isn't protection. It's power, and it's stronger than you'll ever understand." The confrontation escalated. Words clashed with threats, and tension coiled like a spring ready to snap. But amidst the chaos, Isabella found her courage. She confronted her cousin, revealing the depth of her awareness, the clarity she had gained. "I am not a pawn." "I never was." "And you underestimated me," she said, eyes blazing. The battle of wits, influence, and courage reached its peak. The cousin faltered, his arrogance giving way to panic as Alexander and Isabella revealed the evidence they had gathered. Proof of his treachery, the accounts, the threats, the manipulation. Cornered, he had no choice but to surrender. As law enforcement arrived to take him away, Alexander and Isabella stood together, a united front against the shadows that had haunted their lives. The air seemed lighter, the city sounds softer, as if the world had acknowledged their victory. Later, back at the Kane penthouse, they finally allowed themselves a moment of intimacy. Alexander cupped Isabella's face, his thumb brushing her cheek softly. "We did it," he whispered. Isabella smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. Together, they embraced, a long, lingering hold that spoke of survival, triumph, and love that had weathered betrayal, danger, and fear. Every heartbeat in sync, every breath shared. Weeks passed, and the city continued its relentless pace. But for Alexander and Isabella, life had shifted. Their bond had deepened beyond romance. It was a partnership, a force strengthened by trials and shared victories. Publicly, their relationship blossomed under the media's watchful eye. But privately, they nurtured the quiet moments, the laughter, the stolen glances, the whispered promises. Then, on a serene evening atop the penthouse terrace, Alexander presented Isabella with a small velvet box. Inside rested a delicate ring, a symbol of commitment not just in love, but in trust and shared destiny. "I want to spend the rest of my life with you," he said. Voice steady, eyes unwavering, Isabella, heart full, whispered, "Yes, yes." 1,000 times, yes. The skyline of New York stretched endlessly before them, bright, alive, and full of possibility. Their journey had been tumultuous, filled with danger, betrayals, and revelations, but love had prevailed.